The way that we use literature circles in our classroom is that we've chosen to use some historical fiction novels. We teach U.S. history, and the Dear America series is really great, and it ties together. It's the best way that we've figured out to make the students, make it personal for them. Most of those books are written at a level around the same age that they are, and there are lots of different ways to do lit circle jobs and lit circles, even more than 4, but we've chosen 4 that tie really well to history. We have the discussion director. They are to write 5 good questions so that that group can discuss the section of the book that they're assigned. The literary luminary, and they're to choose three pieces that really stuck out to them, and it could mean something very personal to them, or they could think that it was an important part of the story. The critical connector, and that's really the meat of why we do the literature circle. It ties into things that really happened and things that we're teaching about, so that when we're talking about our notes, the Boston Massacre, in our history class, students that have read the book where it talks about the Boston Massacre are able to give some input to our discussions. And then the last job that we have them do is articulate artist, where they draw a picture to represent something from their reading. The way that we do this is that it rotates from job to job. The group of students that you're about to see have already completed 1 book in our classroom, so they've already been through all 4 jobs. And now you're about to see their second attempt. They've been given a new book. They've read the first section of that book, and now they have their new job.
Okay, we're going to complete the first lit circle of the new book that you just received last time. If you would prepare to group. Just prepare. Please group in 5, 4. All desks must be touching. 3. Hurry. Hurry. And 1. Silence in 3. Silence in 2. No moving in 1. Here we are. Let's do a quick refresher of things that we already know about Lit Circle. Where are my discussion directors? Discussion directors, take 30 seconds to read your instruction sheet to remind yourself of what to do during Lit Circle.
Now, remember, it is your job to lead a good discussion about the section of the book that you have read and all of the other people have read in your book. Your questions should not be able to be answered with just 1 word. It shouldn't be very obvious. It should last for about 8 to 10 minutes. 8 to 10 minutes. Discussion directors, begin.
Gus notes on July 16th that some members of the corps will be going all the way to the Pacific Ocean in the permanent party, and others will turn back to St. Louis after the winter. Would you be scared like us that you would not be in the permanent party, or would you have the confidence in your position within the corps?
I'd be scared.
I'd be confident.
Why would you be confident?
Because I'm not good. I'd go with the corps. Or I'd just pull another Gus thing, and I'd just stay in the woods and wait for him.
How about you?
I would be scared.
I think I'd be confident if I could just, like...
You're a kid. The rest are adults. I mean, they can easily kick you off.
But if you're the only one who can read and write...
Yeah, I know, but also, other people can read and write.
Okay, and finally, number 5. One day when Reuben Field and his brother Joseph were scouting for a beaver, Joe got bit by a rattler. Gus cut X's where Joe was bit and sucked a lot of the venom out. Do you believe you would have the confidence in yourself to save Joe in that situation and not get sick or die from the poison? Why or why not?
I'd be afraid I'd swallow it.
Yeah.
Start,
I would
coughing.
try, but I would fail.
I would be really...
I'd be like, hey, this guy just got bit. Somebody come fix him.
Yeah, I think he'd be better off without me.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Because I'd mess up and swallow it or something.
Myself.
I would be willing to sell to America, and I think it's just because it's an open opportunity.
I would just sail over to America because there would be more hope there than it would be in Ireland.
Yeah, I would sail to America because there'd be more hope and you can get jobs and stuff.
I would go because my aunt would be there and I would have family there and there's more opportunities than there are in Ireland. But yet I would have to think of that I would be leaving my parents behind and they would come eventually. But I would still go.
One day, a beggar woman and her 2 sons came by Mary's house, and Mary's mom came to see what the noise was, and the woman asked for a bit of bread. But Mary's mom had to say no. Would you have gave them food? Why or why not?
I would have given them food if I would have had the food to give.
I would give them food if I had any, but if I didn't have enough, or just for them to have some and then I wouldn't have any, then I would just have to not give them any.
Yeah, if I had enough food, then I would give them some, but if I didn't have enough food to give them, then I couldn't give them.
Yeah, I would provide for the rest of my family.
Okay. Mary met 3 little kids, Molly, Sophie, and Brendan, and she always played with them and entertained them. If you were on the ship, would you help their mothers out and play with the kids? Why or why not?
I would definitely play with them just because they're little kids and they're bored. And I would because I like little kids, so it would be fun.
I would because it would give me something to do and would make their mom happy, so yes, I would go do it.
I probably would do it because I would probably have nothing else to do.
Yeah, pretty much. I would do it just because it'd give you something to do, and also it'd be kind of a way to repay the O'Donnells and the other families for helping Mary out. I need my literary luminaries to raise their hand, please. Literary luminary. Please take 15 seconds to refresh your memory by reading the directions that are on your literary luminary sheet.
Now remember that as the literary luminary of this section, you were to pull out 2 events in the book that really stuck out to you in that part of the book, and you are to read that section, open up the book, read it out loud, and then tell the group why you chose that. What reason did you have for picking out that particular part? Go ahead and begin.
Page 24, paragraph 3. Ready? Mm-hmm. Mama asked me to deliver her letter to Mr. Washington first thing this morning. It was a 20-minute walk, and by the time I arrived, the tops of my shoes had filled with snow, and I was shivering. While I waited inside by the kitchen step, I felt grateful to Elizabeth because she let me wear her cloak. I decided I liked her scarf. I'm sorry I hated it at first, and I'm relieved I didn't tell her so. The summary. Mama sent a letter to Mr. Washington. Very cold out, and Abby had to walk 20 minutes to his headquarters. Abby wore Beth's cloak and the scarf Beth made for Abby for Christmas. Abby finally liked it. The letter was an exception to Mr. Washington's offer. The offer was 40 shillings a month for a laundress. Abby was the one to be the laundress. Anyone want to discuss it?
Yeah, I thought that was neat. I wouldn't want to walk the 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I would walk 20 minutes.
20 minutes and then 20 minutes back.
Freezing cold weather, 6 degrees.
You're cold, and that's 40 minutes you're out in the cold.
Page 16. Paragraph 1. First things first, I thought, and pulled out one of the headstones we had been leaning on and crushed the snake's head flatter than a pancake. Then I tried to get Henry to let me have a look at his arm, but he just kept running around in circles, waving his arm in the air and crying out in pain. I had to tackle him and pull him down to the ground so I could get a good look. While Henry was telling the story of Miss Dilvis, the snake bit into Henry's arm because Henry and William were both at the Coxhill, a burial ground where snakes can be found. The reason I selected this passage was because I went to my aunt's grave in London once and there were bugs and a few grass snakes and it really freaked me out.
I still think it was weird that he pulled the headstone out of the ground and beat the snake with it. That's weird.
Page 19. Paragraph 2. Does anyone else want to read the paragraph?
Alright. I keep an eye on Becca so she doesn't go near it. Fortunately, she minds me most of the time.
On page 19 is the wrong one. You read the wrong thing. You sent it here. Oh, yeah.
Oh. Wish Miss Thompson hadn't agreed to take one of Mr. Nelson's puppies in partial payment for his bill. Just because his dog had puppies doesn't mean we have to have one, as far as I'm concerned. Don't we have enough to do with that? I would have preferred if Mr. Nelson found some way to pay off his bill. Bring us a cake from his bakery, perhaps.
Miss Thompson agrees to take one of Miss Nelson's puppies in partial payment for his bill. The puppy doesn't obey any commands and does his business everywhere the Newfoundland's not supposed to. The reason I selected this passage is because the passage reminded me of how my kittens did the kitten business in my garage when they weren't supposed to. Then it's done. Okay. Page 25.
Critical connectors, raise your hand, please. Good.
Take 15 seconds, please, to review the role that critical connector plays during Lit Circle. Make sure that you know that the job of critical connector, to me as an American history teacher, this is the meat of my Lit Circle. This is the reason that I do Lit Circle in American history. This, to me, is the most important job. Your job is to make a connection between the historical fiction novel that you are reading and events that actually happened in American history. It's like a mini research paper in 4 or 5 lines. So you should have selected 2 events from your reading that were based in history, and then you should have gone and researched more information on those 2 events that you selected. Critical connector, get started.
Okay, it says, in your own words, describe the first event that you plan to discuss. I chose that when Mrs. Thompson and Mr. Wilson, after the tavern closes, they have a meeting. The meeting takes place every Tuesday night, and the people who attend, including Mrs. Thompson and Mr. Wilson, call themselves the committee. It relates to history because in 1774, after the British had closed the ports and harbors so supplies could no longer reach the people in Boston, the colonists in Boston started to meet in secret locations. Usually they were taverns or homes of certain people, but the members who attended discussed the issues of the British and how to solve the problem. The meetings were kept a secret by everyone who attended, and they were also called the committee. Is there any other connections that you see?
Yeah, like in the book, it said that England was kind of mad at Boston because Boston owed England some money because Boston went out in the ocean on the ships and dumped England's tea like in the ocean, and because England had taxes on Boston and they didn't like it, Boston didn't like it, and it's in history that really did happen, and then in the book they said that England closed Boston's ports so that they couldn't use any ships and get any food from other countries because
and that made Boston really mad.
Yeah, because England was very mad.
Right. Okay, my second event from the book was when Will and Henry went down to the docks. It got so hot, Will jumped in, but Henry didn't, and the reason was said to be because Mr. Armstrong, his keeper, warned Henry to stay clear of the lobsterbacks, so Henry stayed on the dock. In history, in the 1700s, the British soldiers were known as lobsterbacks because of their bright red uniforms, and the reason the soldiers wore the bright red uniforms was because the Army had adopted red as their national color, and that another reason I heard that the British soldiers were said to be lobsterbacks was due to the scarring of corporal punishment inflicted upon them, such as whipping. Like when they didn't behave the rules, they got whipped. Is there any other connections that you see?
Like the loyalists that lived in Boston, like if other people found out that you were a loyalist, they would burn your house and try to kill you.
Articulate artists, begin.
Okay. That's them throwing the bodies over after they die.
Yeah, that's Mr. O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait.
What? Do you have anything?
The ship.
What is the yellow thing?
Yeah.
It's just right because I wanted to make it look prettier. I picked it because it kind of stuck out to me because I just couldn't think about it doing that, but it just kind of seemed sad, so that's how I drew it. Okay. I liked that Mary spent time with the twins. Mary knows the twins are scared, so she comforts them. I learned that there was a great potato famine in Ireland around 1845. It caused many deaths. I just like that both Mr. and Mrs. O'Donnell died before they ever got to see their daughter. And I wonder if the two twin girls will make the voyage.
Okay, well, this is what I drew, and so what do you think it is?
That's George Washington.
Yeah?
I think he is arriving at, like, either his house or the headquarters or somebody else's house.
Yeah. It's got cannons there, so it's gotta be, like, something about army.
Yeah, something about the soldiers.
Yeah, he was arriving at his headquarters in Valley Forge. And, it's and it's in the middle colonies and stuff. And it's where I get a picture from. Yeah, and that's right there. So I try to draw that to show how he was in his headquarters and stuff. Valley Forge.
And then that's the cobblestone thing, and
the cobblestone that goes for the driveway.
And the house is made of wood since it's in middle colonies in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and so it's bigger.
Yeah, it's bigger.
It's usually 400 square
it's
feet.
his headquarters.
Yeah, and he's a more important person. Okay, so I like the fact that the Stewart family is helping the soldiers. I learned that in the winter of 1770 through 1778, Washington and his troops went to Valley Forge. I just like that many of Washington's soldiers had no shoes and they were sick and starving. And I wonder what would have happened if the Stewart family would have been asked by Washington to let Washington and Washington's troops use the Stewart family's house for the soldiers to stay.
I need you to ungroup in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Please make sure that your lit circle is turned to job number 1. Hand it to the discussion director. Discussion director, please place it in my box or Mrs. Steinruck's box at this time. You may put your lit circle books away.
We want to talk to you a little bit about why we chose to do Lit Circle in our American history class. I've done Lit Circle for about 11 years now, and every time I do it, of course, as with any strategy, it gets smoother. We picked Lit Circle because it really gets the kids involved with American history. It helps them make that personal connection, and they can really add to class discussions that we have about the book. We can use Lit Circle in a variety of different ways. We use it in this particular instance with a chapter book. And all of the students in the class, I mean, if we divide the class into 8 groups, they might have 4 or 5 different books based on different time periods in American history. And the beautiful thing about Lit Circle is if I'm teaching the American Revolution, I might have one book that talks just about how a patriot girl would feel about the American Revolution, and then I might have another group reading a book on how the Loyalists would react to the American Revolution. So it really sets up a great dialogue in history and takes history away from the boring, names, dates, people, places, to what life was like for everyday people.
It really is one of the best things we do in our history class, and they tie it into what we are teaching them in history. And the more you can get students involved, while the students, while you were watching the students, all of the students were engaged. It's very important. Nobody wants to show up and not have their homework done because it affects everybody else in the group. And when we're talking about history, they are on task with us, and they are even adding to the things that we're telling everyone in class.
Now, we didn't start off doing a novel, and when we introduce the Lit Circle experience, oftentimes we'll do it with a whole, in the whole class, and we'll do it with a picture book. That's always the way that I would begin it. That gives a chance for everyone to experience all 4 of the job sheets and to share some success and to have some common language and information to talk about. So you can use it in a picture book if you don't have a classroom set of books, or you can use it individually with different groups.